Okay, there you go. So again, just very quickly, my name is Vishal. I'm the product manager at ProSoft Technology for our remote connectivity and IIoT solution portfolio. Today's webinar is a deep dive on our solutions, including a couple of demos that will demonstrate how simple and secure it is to set up a remote connectivity, whether you're a machine builder, a systems integrator, or an end customer. Very good. Okay. Go to the next slide. All right, so the agenda for today, for those who already don't know, you're going to have a very quick look at who ProSoft is, then the remote connectivity of the what, why, and where, the components of our solution, the benefits of our solution. We're going to spend a little bit of time on the IT secure OT friendly. It's one of the takeaway slides. And then, of course, the demo, and we'll finish off with the summary towards the end. All right, who's ProSoft? I think most of you would know who it is or who we are. We are typically known as the Modbus guys, and really our strength over the last 30 years is protocol translation and then getting your data from A to B. So the ability to connect down at the field level, translate your protocols, and then getting that data from A to B, and that could be wired or wireless. Okay, and if you think about it, it is that connectivity which is really step one for anything IIoT, which is Industrial Internet of Things, and that's why we say that IIoT starts with ProSoft. Okay, so the next topic, what is remote connectivity? Why does remote connectivity make sense today, and where do you apply it? If you think about what is remote connectivity, the definition of that, remote connectivity sort of really boils down to three things, which is downstream connectivity to your field devices. So that's primarily industrial protocols. Then you have the ability, then you've got to manage that data. So whether it's timestamping the data, whether it's storing it, whether it's recording that information. And then the last part of remote connectivity is actually getting that data up to some kind of a top end. It could be a business enterprise system, it could be a SCADA system. So the what is really three steps, which is downstream communications, the management of the data, and then upstream. Why? If you look at today, why does remote connectivity make sense? We've all heard of the terms of things like connected enterprise and Industry 4.0, digitization and so forth. The theme, and it is there in the title, is, for any of that to accomplish is the connectivity part. And what that gives you today, and connectivity has been around for a really long time. If you go back, one of the analogies I like to use is in Middle Earth on a lot of the rings, connectivity was lighting fires on top of mountaintops. So we've had connectivity forever. It has evolved, it has changed, and the benefits each time that connectivity has evolved and changed has been slightly different. Today, most of the connectivity is to do with getting data quickly, getting access to that data very quickly, but then also using that data efficiently to improve the quality, to improve the efficiency, productivity, and certainly safety of the system that you're working on, whether that could be manufacturing, could be a machine builder. Connectivity for each one could mean slightly different things. Where do you use remote connectivity? Quite frankly, just about anywhere. If you're taking, let's say, utilities, water telemetry system, or a gas distribution network, they use connectivity to connect all of their dispersed sites that are geographically dispersed sites to bring data back into a control system. If you think about the plant flow, you've got machines today and you've got all types of connectivity, whether it's an AGV, whether it's smaller assets that need to be connected to bring back that information, to give you a wholesome picture of what's happening within the plant and to enable you to make the right decisions at the right time. If you think about a machine builder, for them, a connectivity is about ensuring that they're connected to their customer or to the machine to ensure that it is operating correctly, let's say during the warranty period, or if they're providing a certain service to say, yep, we guarantee this machine is going to be operating, for X amount of time, then they need that connection to ensure that that machine is operating. So if you look at what the value proposition of remote connectivity is, it's really focused on cost savings, improving efficiencies with respect to downtime and asset life. Um, so those are the sort of the general value propositions. And if you look at any one of those value propositions or you take them a whole, they're going to impact the bottom line positively of any business entity. Okay, so let's get stuck into the meat of things. So the components of ProSoft's remote connectivity solution, there are two primary components. The first is the connectivity, and then it's the solution platform. And today for the connectivity, we've got cellular wireless, which can be a 3G, 4G gateway. Our gateways are Verizon and AT&T certified, which is important. And one of the key advantages we offer with our gateway is add-on instructions to ensure integration into a Rockwell connected architecture is simple and it's easy. So these add-on instructions allow you to do things like generate SMSs, or get access to the gateway's diagnostic data, which can then be either mapped to variables within the PLC and then have that displayed on your SCADA system, for example, or you use that to make certain decisions on how to operate the plant or the process. We've also got a wired version of it. So if you've already got internet access, then we've got a wired gateway. One of the big advantages of this gateway up here, which is this guy, the PLX35, it's got a isolated LAN WAN port. So these ports are physically isolated on the gateway. And as a result of that isolation, one of the things that this gateway can do is help you transfer files across segmented networks. So for example, if you've got sort of a machine network, and you could have a bunch of IT equipment, you could have PLCs, other smart devices, but let's say you want to get all of those configuration files and stored into a secure server, except you don't want a direct or a continuous connection to that server for security reasons. With this file relay feature, we can accept files from any of these because we are both a secure FTP client and server. So we would get the files from the field devices. There's an onboard SD card where we would temporarily store these files, and then we could push it up to the secure server. And since these two ports are physically isolated, you don't have that continuous connection between a corporate business server and the machine network, giving you that separation there. You'll observe you've got a data logger plus, and you're thinking which is this next module up here, the data logger, and you're wondering what's this got to do with remote connectivity. If you think about, one of the value propositions that I mentioned about remote connectivity is to increase asset life. And to ensure reduced downtime. Well, to do any of that, predictive maintenance is certainly one way, but you also need to be monitoring the data so you can ensure that your machines are operating efficiently, your process is working correctly. And typically for you, you can record this data with sort of a continuous online connection, which sometimes may not be possible. But what the data logger does is allow you to record all of this data at high speeds, but store them locally, which you can then access either manually or automatically through the REST API interface. And we can store over 16 million records. And then finally, what brings all of this together is the solution platform. This is called Connect. There are two things we focused on when Connect was designed: ease of use and security. And as we go through this presentation, you're going to see more of that. So before we actually go and look at the solution platform, just very quickly on the data logger, remember I mentioned that you're able to use the integrated REST API to either automatically get the data, and you can have that shown, imported directly into business CRM systems, or through dashboards or anything. So any top pen that also supports REST API, all you need is a fairly simple script to connect and get this data. You can also access that data manually through a CSV file. Okay, so we're going to look at what the benefits of our solution is. So you looked at the different components we've got. So what are the benefits of our solution or ProSoft solution? Um, Now, the foundation of our remote connectivity solution is ProSoft Connect, which was this cloud-native, ultra-reliable, very secure platform that is really allows you to not just manage your devices, but also your connection and your network and so forth. Uh, this solution is simple, secure, and managed. It is very, very simple, very intuitive to use, and you're going to see that in the demo. It's a managed solution, which means customers can focus on what's most important to them. That's delivering on their service, whether it be clean water to the community or ensuring, the gas distribution system in the city is working properly. It is very IT secure, and again, this is a recurring theme. You're going to see a little bit more on that. Um, we've also and very OT friendly as well. So we've done a lot of the heavy lifting. So behind the scenes, it's super simple for you to use as a customer. Remote connectivity itself, there are two types of remote connectivity. One is an on-demand. So this is where you would connect for a very specific reason. Let's say, for example, you want to update the program in a PLC, you want to check the status of a machine, you want to change the value of a timer, change the screen on a HMI. These are all very specific actions where you would connect, you would perform that action, and you would disconnect. So that's called an on-demand connection or secure remote access. And the other type of remote connectivity is the always-on type of connection. We call this the persistent data network, and like I said, an always on net connection. So for this, think about, let's say, for example, you've got a water system or you got a gas distribution system where you got a bunch of remote sites that need to be connected all the time to ensure the right operation of that system, that the water is being made available to the town. Or if it's a wastewater treatment plant, then the pumps are operating properly, there's no overflows and things like that. So for that to happen, you need this always on connection, which we do support. So the nice thing is both of those types of connectivity, a single platform, a single set of hardware, which you can use for both types of applications. So it makes it very, very friendly. And then finally, our solution is mobile ready. So we've got dedicated apps on both the Apple and the Android platforms. These applications make it even easier for you to use, helping you to realize one of the real values of remote connectivity, which is anytime, anywhere, anyhow, basically platform and device agnostic access. Okay, so let's look at the main features. If you remember, I said that when we designed ProSoft Connect, we had two things in mind. It's got to be very simple and intuitive to use from an OT perspective, because remember, their KPIs or what they're in charge of in an organization is to ensure minimum downtime, ensure that the system is operating reliably, they can scale the solution, and it's easy for them to use. So we focused on those. And then on the IT side, they've pretty much got one KPI, which is ensuring security. So we focused on both of those and to ensure the solution is OT friendly and IT secure. So from that perspective, our solution is cloud native, and I've already mentioned this. So the advantage of that, high availability, reliability, and a fully redundant solution. Absolutely no software to install. And this is like zero, which is very good because we also use standard VPN technology. You just need a browser, and every time you connect, you're always connecting to the latest, greatest, and most secure version of ProSoft Connect for your system. We've done a lot of the heavy lifting, so it's very simple and intuitive to use. For example, things like managing your devices with firmware update scheduling, or managing your users with different role-based user access, and giving them access to only a certain part of the project that they want to access. Ability to import or export configurations, managing notifications. So when a gateway goes down or you've reached your data limit, all of that is very, very simple, very easy to use. Then there is security, which is obviously very important for our customers and for us as well, which is why we've taken a multi-layered approach called defense in depth. And some of these features include, which I'll go through now, a single sign-on. So this one allows the IT to manage user access. This is pretty cool because if you think about it now, there's only one place where you've got to enable or revoke access for a particular user within an organization. So, now if a person has left the organization and they're no longer there, IT just has one place to go to and not have to worry about 10 different applications or 10 different areas where they have to go and they have to revoke their access. I think most of you guys would have heard about this feature, very unique to ProSoft. And I'm not sure many of you know, we've actually got a patent pending on this. So we've taken the factory floor safety principle of lockout tagout, where you cannot accidentally energize a machine, and applied it to the virtual world where you have to request access before you connect. We've got two-factor authentication. This is token-based, which adds another level of verification. Once the tunnel, so this is your connection to the gateway, which is then obviously connected to your automation network. That connection or that tunnel creation itself is fully encrypted, where we do not know what you're putting through that tunnel. We just know how much data you're putting through that tunnel. When we create those connections, those tunnels, we use single-use credentials. So these are randomly generated, and once one is generated, they are never used again. And then you get through all of these security features and you finally connect. You can then restrict what end devices you can connect to with our IP whitelisting feature. So we've also got things like we use secure web pages to view your data, and sort of a very extensive audit trail, which you're going to see in the demo, that tracks all the user activity with respect to the connection and to the gateway management. And as I mentioned previously, this solution, so ProSoft Connect, is available on both Apple and Google through dedicated apps. Okay. When you looked at our solution, when we looked at the benefits of ProSoft solution, I went through two connection types. I said we support both. The first one, which was the on-demand or the secure remote access. If you look at this architecture, for example, this is fairly self-explanatory, where a user is wanting to connect to a remote network, and typically they're connecting for a very specific reason. It could be to change the HMI, it could be to change the software in the PLC, but the connection can either be through a cellular wireless gateway or through a wired gateway. But one of the cool features, what sets us apart, is once you create this connection, we actually place the user on the same subnet, excuse me, as the remote automation network. So for example, the advantage there is, once you're connected, you're not sitting there as a user twiddling your thumbs and saying, what is the IP address of this network? I have to go look through my spreadsheet or look through my paper to find out. Instead, what you can do is once you're connected, because it places you on the same subnet, you can bring up a program like, let's say, RSWho or Who Active, which is sort of Rockwell's discovery service, and there's other discovery services. Like ProSoft Discovery Service, and you can bring that up, and then you can scan for all of your different IP addresses, and bingo, you're good to go. So you're not sitting there and having to change the IP address on your PC to get on the same subnet. You don't have any of those pain points. And we're going to do that. You're going to see that in the demo. The other connection, this is a persistent data network. Remember, I said this is the always on connection, where you've got a bunch of remote sites. This particular example, let's say you've got a multi-well pad installation where they all need to talk back to a central SCADA. You could have this very quickly set this network up where really you're spending more time installing the devices than actually creating the network, and then able to have all of these sites talk to each other. The simplest way to really look at the effectiveness of persistent data network or PDN is think about this as a switch in the cloud. It's basically like having an Ethernet switch that you would have on your table in the cloud, and anything you plug into this, they will be able to talk to each other. Okay, so I mentioned this previously, and I said, so this would be one of the takeaway slides, especially for the salespeople. When you're talking to customers, we all know the benefits of remote connectivity, whether it's, reduced downtime, reduced support costs, access to easy expertise, efficient support, all of those things. But there is still some this things and some reluctance to accept the solution, and that's fundamentally because of some security concerns. So the message of this slide is to show you that our solution is both OT friendly, so reliable, scalable, easy to use, at the same time, very, very IT secure. Excuse me. Um, when I send out these slides, I've got a bunch of notes attached to the slide, so you can go through that. But if you look at all those features and they directly relate to each other, so for example, if you look at it simple and intuitive to use on the OT side, well, on the IT side, we've got the encryption. So yes, it's simple, but the connection is very encrypted. So again, because you cannot, or we don't know, as ProSoft, and it's our service, we don't know what you're putting through that tunnel. Once it's created, we just know how much data you're sending through it. So that should give IT confidence that we are not, collecting the data, storing it, translating it, or doing anything like that. And that's the explanation, sort of the intent behind the slide. So the notes will take you that step-by-step explanation to explain what these different features both for OT and IT mean. Okay, demo time. Yeah, hopefully the demo cards will be very good to me today. So we're going to do two demos. The first one we're going to do is the secure remote access. So remember, this is the on-demand connection where you would connect to do a very specific task. So in my case, what I'm going to be showing to you is connecting from my laptop to a demo that's in our office. And the very specific task that I'm doing is actually accessing the IP camera on that demo to show you, because it's much easier than bringing up the PLC program. So let me get out of this. And all of you guys, of course, know the PLC program. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Open up Explorer. So remember, I said it's cloud native. There's no software or anything to open up and to access. I just need a browser, and I'm going to go to ProSoft Connect. So for those of you who don't know or don't have an account, it's super simple to sign up. You can create a free account, but obviously you're going to need a gateway to actually do anything with it. To sign up, click on the sign up button, a couple of details to fill up, and then you've got an account that you can use. Now, when ProSoft was designed, remember I said it was designed with OT ease of use, IT security, but also for different types of customers. So whether you're a machine builder, a systems integrator, or an end user, it needed to satisfy any type of customer. So you needed to have this semblance of saying, what are the different features that they need and how are they going to support their customers or their applications. And you're going to see that as we go through it. So right now I've got a demo account. I'm going to log in with a password. At this point, I could have used single sign-on, where I could have used my corporate credentials to log in, or I could have enabled two-factor authentication, where I have to enter a code and to log in as well. So let me log in. So remember, I said that Connect is designed for all types of users. Well, if you think about a machine builder, for example, machine builder has got lots of different customers, and it would be less than ideal to have to open multiple tabs for each one of those customers. Or if you're an end customer, a large end customer, let's say you're like a Coca-Cola or a Chobani, where you've got lots of plants, again, the last thing you want to do is to open a tab, let's say, for each one of your locations. So what we've done is introduce the concept of projects, where a project basically is an organization tool. Under each project, you can have multiple gateways, and a project could mean different things for different types of customers. If you're a machine builder, a project could be a customer. If you're an end customer, for example, like Chobani, each one of these projects could be a location where you've got remote access. The projects itself are two types, reflecting the two types of connectivity we support, which is secure remote access or PDN. Secure remote access is the standard project, which is this one up here. And then PDN was typically where you got this network for always on connectivity. So with the secure remote access demo that I'm doing now, what I'm going to do is go to one of the remote access projects, which is this guy up here. I've already got the gateway set up. Again, this is to reduce time and get through, the 1 hour that we have, to make sure that I've got enough time to actually show you all of the features. But to configure a gateway itself is super simple. Literally, when you get it out from our factory and you take it out of the box, there's basically 2 parameters you've got to configure. Once you've configured that, then you'll be able to activate the gateway so you can register onto our Connect service. And that's how you would add a gateway. So let's say, for example, I was to add a new gateway. It's as simple as clicking on add and entering that activation code up here. And then you can click on activate. That would then register the gateway onto Connect. Once you've got the gateway on Connect, you'd be able to configure, make configuration changes, change firmware, move it across different projects. There's lots of things. So basically, you would not have to go back to the default configuration to make any changes. You can do it all from Connect. Now, the gateway that we're using for for the secure remote access demo is this guy up here. So this is a gateway that's actually located in California, and I'm actually based near Boston. So I'm going to click on that, for example, up here. And here sort of all of the different things where you could change the firmware. You got some diagnostic settings. This tab allows you to make some configuration changes like changing the name, your local area network settings, and your wide area network settings. Access is a security tab. One of the features I mentioned was vLotto. So I'm actually going to enable vLotto up here, and I'm going to add myself. So we can do this. Let me get rid of this. Now you can actually have up to 3 different authorizers. So I've just added myself just as an example. You'll notice all of the changes are up here, and I can cancel the changes if I want to. If this email address is invalid, it will not allow me to make the change. So again, very intuitive, very easy to use. So let me make the change and apply. If I now go back to Gateway, you'll actually notice, and if you see the difference between these two, for me to connect to this gateway, even though I'm still in the application, I have to request access. So in this case, if I request access, requesting myself, so let's say demo, oops. I send in the request, so it says the request, the access is pending. So what happens at that point is an email is actually sent to the person on the authorizer list, and when they get that email, they will be able to either either to approve or to deny access. So let me just look at my emails. And of course, today, because I'm doing the demo, it's going to take some time for the email to come through. When I do this demo, I generally send it out to the customer for them to get the email, and then they could approve the access to me when I'm on board. While I'm waiting for that access to come through, I will go through some of the other features that we've got on Connect. So for each project, for example, you can have your own team members. So if you look at this, for example, up here, I can have my own set of team members. And the advantage of that, let's say if you think about from a machine builder perspective, is you could, if you've got different customers and you've got different set of technicians, or better still, if you want to give your customer access to their project, so let's say their engineer can also take advantage of the remote access, then you can set it up so that they only have access to one specific project. So you as the owner might be able to see everything. You can see all of your customers, but they would only be able to connect to the one specific project that they would be given access to. Another cool feature is you can actually have multiple people connect to the same gateway. So the use case there is, let's say, for example, you've got a customer with a complex machine that's got a PLC, a HMI, and a drive. And typically, you would have specialists for each type of those devices. And the most efficient way to support the customers for all three to be connected so they can diagnose their equipment and then provide that efficient support to the customer. Okay, so I've received the email. So this would be the kind of email that you would get. So I'm now going to approve access, which tells me that I've approved access. And then if you go up here, I'm now able to initiate the connection. So if I now initiate the connection, here's the other security feature that we spoke about, which is this random one-time tunnel credentials. Obviously, as you can see, it's long. So I would copy this to clipboard. Now, if you're a first-time user, it talks you through to setting up the VPN client. So again, in this case, if you click on it, it uses standard Windows VPN technology to create that connection. So I've already got that. So I'm going to bring that up. Bring this up. So I'm going to paste that random code, click on connect, and it's going through the connection process. So once it's connected, it gives me the indication to say that me and the gateway are now securely connected, creating the secure tunnel through to this gateway. So now that I've connected, I am now able to go and remember the demo purpose of this was to access a camera, and the IP camera I've got connected up there is this guy, which I'll be able to bring up the image. So it's still fairly dark or very early morning in California on the West Coast. And also, since everybody's working from home, the lights in the office are turned off, so we might see a slightly darker image. Nope. Oh, it's actually very good. There's the brightness coming in through the window, and there's our demo. So it really is that simple. If you notice, once I created this connection, I did not have to change my IP address to get on the same network as this camera. As you can see up here, a different IP address. It was very, very simple to get on. So in the real world application, if you've got a Rockwell PLC and you're trying to access that, you would bring up, let's say, for example, RSWho or RU Active, and then that will tell you what IP addresses you have up there that you can then connect to, and then bring up the RSLogix program. You would connect to your PLC, and then you would do whatever you need to. And this should, if you look at this, this will give you the same experience as if you were sitting in front of that particular PLC and trying to make the change. Now, one of the cool things is I requested permission to connect. In that same email, you'd have observed that there were two options, either to approve or deny. As we are connected, let's say if I was to deny, I'll need to give a reason. So let's say complete caps lock. And click on deny. So you've denied access to the user. You'll notice that it has not kicked me off, saying that the reconnect logo has come off. Click on no. So now it has said that access is denied. And if you look at the image is no longer gone. It's just gone, which means I'm no longer connected to this camera. That entire sequence of events is there in the activity log, which you can do things like filtering or you can export. So for example, if you start up here, where I changed the email address, I requested an hour's access because I was doing a demo, and then it was here me that gave me the access. And then I created the tunnel to connect to the demo. And then at this point, I say up here, access was denied. And here, who denied the access, which was me again. And there was a reason that I've stated, which is demo complete. So I will now be able to export this entire list of user activity as a CSV file if I wanted to. So really simple, really easy to use. Now the next demo I wanted to show you is this guy up here, which is a PDN demo. And if you remember, PDN is the always on connectivity between remote sites. So in this case, what we have is this particular unit, which is actually, that is my PC, so the one that I'm doing the presentation on right now, and I'm physically connected to a cellular gateway on my desk where the local WAN IP address of that gateway is 192.168.120.175. And to prove that I'm connected to it, if I bring up the command prompt, and I can ping that IP. So this is me physically connected to that gateway. So let me minimize that. So what I'm going to do is very quickly create a network. And if you remember this, this was actually what we just connected to. What I wanted to show you the difference is between the secure remote access and the PDN. Remember the difference is with secure remote access, it's a on demand. So you were initiating the connection to do a specific action, which in our case was to view the image of the from the video camera. With the PDN network, what I'm going to show you is that once I've created this network, I can access this PLC. There's a web page on this PLC. I can access that without actually physically creating that connection to the site. So the intent there in a real world application, clearly I've got an IP camera and a data logger up here. But let's say if this is a network with PLCs on these 3 different sites, they will now be able to communicate to each other. So, think about this being a water treatment plant, this being a water tank, and this being a pump station. They will now be able to talk to each other to exchange data, turn on the pumps or shut it off when the high level alarm goes on and things like that. So let me go back to the demo again. Up here, I'm going to go back to the projects window. So the project, I've already created this, and again, in the interest of saving time, is this guy up here. So this is a PDN network. I've got a couple of gateways up here. So this is the gateway that's physically connected to my machine. And here is a gateway that I've already got on the network. There's the indication to say that these 2 gateways are connected in a network. So remember now, if you remember the architecture that I showed, this gateway, I've got a data logger connected. If it was a secure remote, excuse me, if it was a secure remote access application, for me to connect to that gateway, I'd have to initiate the connection and I could connect to that gate to the data logger. But with PDN, because they're on the same network, all I have to do is to bring up the IP address of that data logger module, which is .11, and I'm able to access it. That's because I have created a network between these 2. Now, don't think that it was so simple. It is simple because on the OT side, remember all of the security things that you actually cannot see, where I said we do all of the heavy lifting. To create the connection between these 2, we still use those random one-time tunnel credentials to create the tunnel, and the tunnel itself is secure between all of these sites. The analogy, like I said, is think of this as having a switch in the cloud that when you connect into that switch, they're all able to talk to each other. But that connection itself is very secure. So let me show you how easy it is to expand this network. So I'm now going to add a gateway. Now, again, I can add, if it was a brand new gateway that I've just activated, I would enter the key, the activation key, but I'm going to transfer this from an existing project. And the gateway I'm going to transfer is this guy. So remember, this was a guy that we just connected to. So let me transfer this gateway. And you will notice up here, it says gateway is now online and is preparing the network connection. While it is doing that, the communications or whatever devices between these 2 gateways, they will continue to communicate. You will not see any interruption in the communications. And you saw how quickly it has added that gateway and it's connected. It would actually, in the background, created that random username, generated the tunnel, created and make sure that all of these devices are all talking without ever affecting the communications. Let's say if you've got 2 PLCs between these 2. So that now that I'm connected to this, I'm going to bring up the PLCs. So again, I just want to bring up the architecture diagram. the PLC has got this IP address 192.168.120.35. Remember, for me to access the camera, I initiated the connection, but I'm just going to access the PLC without initiating the connection to the gateway. So in this case, the PLC's IP address is 192.168.120.35, and there it is. So literally in minutes, I have created a always-on secure network, a layer 2 network between 3 different gateways. That again, the real-world application would be is that perhaps this PLC is actually going and talking to the data logger and getting data. Again, you guys would know how to do that, but the top end I'm just showing here's the PLC page. Now, if you look at the time, if you look up here, it's 12:59. Let me just refresh that. And you should see that the time, oh, sorry, that was the firmware date. The uptime, I think, is what would have changed. Yeah, there's the uptime value that has changed, which shows how long the PLCs has been up for. So it is. So Connect is very simple to use. And again, same thing with the other one. You can have your own team up here. You've got the activity log that shows you that very detailed activity up here. And you can see here that I transferred the gateway from this project to this project. If I add a comment up here, those comments are saved. I could add multiple comments if I wanted to. And then when I export this activity log, those comments are exported as well. Okay. One of the cool features of ProSoft Connect is a support feature. This is an online support feature where, let's say, for example, we have a number of people, our support team that's looking at this, and if I was to send a message, I'm not expecting anybody to answer, but typically if you've got a question, you can send this through, and then our support people will be looking at it and then replying to any questions that you may have. So this is a pretty cool feature that we have. So again, easy to use. You've got this overview screen, which gives you an overview of the system. So if you look up here for a PDN, how many gateways are online, how many team members are online, how much data I've used, the team members that I already spoke about, your gateway indications, and like I said, easy to make gateway configurations and manage your gateways from here as well. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. Back. Okay, so it's not this slide. Okay, so this is the second last slide, and then I'll open up for questions. In summary, the top 3 reasons why industrial remote connectivity is important in today's world. It drives efficiency by reducing downtime in the meantime to repair. It supports predictive maintenance modeling, and really that connectivity is a first step for any type of IIoT integration and project you want to do, any wider business integration. Remember that one of the benefits of IIoT is the ability to share data more easily across the different business units. Now, the top 3 reasons why ProSoft should be your choice for remote connectivity. The solution is simple and it's managed. It is IT secure and OT friendly, and you saw that. It's a cloud-based system, which means you're able to connect at any time from anywhere on any platform or device. We're completely agnostic. And of course, it comes with the ProSoft reliability. I think most of you know we've been in business for over 30 years. Our bread and butter is industrial protocols. We support over 40 of them. So we certainly know industrial protocols. We know how to translate them, and we know connectivity. We know how to get your data from A to B. Okay. So again, this slide is going to come out when we share this presentation and the recording. As you can see here, this is just a bunch of links that allows you to go and get additional information on anything that I presented today. So next steps, if you're interested in testing our solution, please contact your local distributor or ProSoft sales rep in your territory. The information for them is on our website. A couple of additional things, we're all going through the crisis right now with COVID, and I hope that you and your families are safe. But at the same time, it also means that we're all working from home. So we understand that. So what we have done for the next couple of months is to increase the amount of data that's available to you. So this is the amount of VPN data that's available to you to ensure that you can support your customers without any issues of worrying about data limits, or worrying about losing your access and so forth. So right now, we've increased the data limit to 20 gig per gateway per month, and that's through to the end of May. Also, if you were to buy a gateway today, you actually get, for secure remote access, you will get a free subscription, which gives you access to some of the more advanced users, especially in the security side, with things like vLotto, single sign-on, the ability to create more projects and so forth. So if you get a gateway, whether it's a cellular or wired, a subscription, a one-year subscription is included, and we've increased the data limit for the next 2 months. So so for existing users or anybody who gets a gateway today can support their customers without any issues of reaching data limits. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for question time. And like I said, either please unmute yourself to ask for questions, or you can send them through the chat window. Okay, there's a question which says, what is OT? So OT stands for operational technology. So this is certainly on the plant flow side, where OT's primary KPI is to keep the process running. If you take oil and gas, for example, it's to ensure that the well pad is operating correctly and efficiently. But OT stands for operational technology. Okay, there's another question. Does the PDN gateway work with both Ethernet drivers and RS links? The answer to that is yes. So remember, with our secure remote connecting, let me go back a couple of slides. This is a good diagram to use. So when we create the tunnel, think about this as just as a tunnel from the gateway through our cloud through to, let's say, your PLC. We just create the tunnel. It's an encrypted tunnel. What goes through that tunnel, we don't care. So whether you're putting, Ethernet data, Modbus, Ethernet IP data, Modbus data, or if you're using TNP3 protocol, it does not really matter what you use. We create that secure encrypted tunnel, and then it's up to you. You can bring up, software or communications, and then have that go through the tunnel. Okay, here's another question that's come in. For access to the system, there is a username and password. Is there a way to connect to our corporate Active Directory? Concern is that if an employee leaves and has a ProSoft password, then our equipment is at risk. How can I sell this to our IT department? That's a fantastic question. So let me go back to this particular slide. One of the features we have is what's called a single sign-on. So what single sign-on allows, it allows the ability for IT to manage user access to ProSoft Connect. So with single sign-on, you will be able to use your corporate credentials, so your standard Windows login on your corporate machine, and then with that, you will be able to access Connect. So the idea there is, so if that employee does leave, then you can revoke, IT can revoke his access. And when they've done that, it would be applied across the entire, all of the applications that they use, or they've got access to, which means if they're trying to log on to Connect, they will no longer be able to do that. Um, Not only will IT have the record of that user access being revoked, um, then remember every time when they do log in, you've also got the activity log, which has got that record as well. So they will not be able to log in there. So the key is this one, is a single sign-on, is the answer, Steve. That ensures that IT can manage user access, which means when the person leaves, their access can be revoked very easily. Well, if there are no more, oh, no, there's another question that's came. Okay, so when configuring groups in the online client, are those shared with everyone who has access, or those personal to individual accounts? So when configuring groups. So Nathan, can you please elaborate on that question, please? Okay, understand. All right. So today, the access for a user is by the project. It is not by the gateway. So let's say, for example, if you created a project, let's say this is called City of Springfield, it's a PDN project. You've got a bunch of gateways up here. The team will have access to all of the gateways in that project. What we have on our roadmap is to change how user access works, so it is limited to a per gateway setting, but today it is based on the entire project. So, let's say, for example, if you've got secure remote access, and let's say if you've got 5 gateways in here, then if you've got 10 team members, all 10 of those team members will have access to every one of those gateways in the project. They may not, they would not necessarily have access to all of the projects, but if they are included in a project, they would have access to all of the gateways in there. Here's another question. It says, can you discuss EasyBridge monthly plan types and how to estimate requirements? A very, very good question. So we've got 2 types of subscription. So let's look at secure remote access first, which is this particular project. So secure remote access, every gateway does include 1 gig of VPN data per month. That's on the standard plan. The 2 types of subscriptions that we have is sort of a medium and a large subscription, and they're focused on additional value created in terms of additional projects, having additional team members, concurrent connections. Remember, I said one of the things you can do is have multiple people connect to the same gateway, so you can provide more efficient. And then apart from all of those, of course, is additional data as well. So the medium subscription for secure remote access is 3 gig of VPN data per month. and the large plan includes 6 gig of VPN data per month per gateway. Now, the key to remember for the subscription is it is based on the organization rather than on the number of gateways. So you could get a single medium subscription, which is very, very cost effective. We're just talking less than $1,000 it is per year. And you could have 100 gateways and you could have 20 different projects. It is still only one subscription for the entire organization. It is not based on the number of gateways. It is not based on the number of projects that you have. Same thing with a large subscription. You do get 6 gigabytes of VPN data per gateway per month, which is pretty significant. Now let's take PDN. PDN is a subscription service. Remember, when we've got all of these different gateways, the service is maintaining that secure, always on connection between all of these different gateways in the network or between that network to ensure that they can all talk to each other. And that's critical, right? The always on connectivity is critical. Again, if you think about the type of applications, whether it's a water network or an oil and gas application, of connectivity in a well pad or a gas distribution system, it is absolutely critical that all of the remote sites be online and be able to talk to each other to ensure smooth flow of that system. So that is based on the number of sites in the network. So in this case, you've got 8 gateways. So you would need a PDN subscription for 8 nodes or 8 gateways. And with the PDN, you actually get all of the secure remote access features. So, security, projects, the limit on projects, team members, and all of that. But what you get is 3 gigabytes of VPN data per gateway per month. So in this case, in this particular network, you've got a total of 8 nodes. So you would get a total of 24 gigabytes per month. With PDN, persistent data network always on, the data is pooled. So let's say, for example, if Jeff's ICX35 used 5 gig of VPN data in 1 month, and let's say John only used 1 gig, that's fine because between the two of them, they're basically at their limit. But it's applied to the entire network, the entire system, rather than to an individual gateway. The other part of John's question is obviously you have to look at a cellular data plan. So remember, we got 2 types of gateways. So we've got a cellular gateway or the wired gateway. Obviously, with a wired gateway, you don't need a cellular data plan. But if it is a cellular gateway, what you want to think about when you get the right data plan is think about how data works. So data is not simply just saying, I want to send 100 words from A to B. So, and if I'm sending it, let's say every minute, then you can very easily calculate how much data you're using. It's not as simple as that, because remember, again, PDN is a subscription, the secure subscription service between all of these networks. And to maintain that security, to maintain that always on connection, data is being used. The cellular networks themselves, whether it's Verizon or AT&T or Rogers or whoever it is, they actually use your data allowance to ensure that your data or your device is a valid device on their network. It's exactly the same with your cell phone. If you've got a cell phone, you could say that, look, I streamed 10 Netflix movies, and I know each one of those movies with 4 gig, so I should have only used 40 gig. Why is my bill showing that I've used 60 gigabytes of data? That's because, yes, the movie might only have been 4 gig each, but to actually enable that streaming, where you got to do the buffering, you got to send the message, all of that takes data. And then the network would want to ensure that your device is valid and it is supposed to be on their network. So they actually use data for that as well. So what you would find is that your cellular data is always going to be greater than your VPN data usage. So remember I said with PDN, we provide 3 gig of VPN data per gateway, which is pooled. What you'd want to do is when you get the SIM card plan, you want to make sure that it is greater than 3 gig. Typically, most customers would get a 5 gig data plan, and that ensures that they don't have any data overages or anything like that. To give you an idea what 3 gig buys you, let's say, take a water network, for example. I've got a customer that's got about 15 sites on this. They poll these sites every 9 seconds, and they are exchanging 100 words. Sorry, the protocol is Ethernet IP, so they're exchanging. So they read 100 words and they write 100 words. They read back and they write too. That particular system uses, on average per site, less than 2 gigabytes of data. Okay, I've got another question that's come in, which says, will TELUS work in Canada? Can I look at ProConnect UI to see how much data I'm using? You absolutely can. So if you look at the overview screen, we tell you things like the PDN system uptime. So, what was the percentage that the network was always connected? And that's reset at every month. How much data are you using out of your allowance? If you notice, we had 8 gateways. How much data you're using out of that allowance, and then how much cellular data you're using. Will TELUS work in Canada? The answer to that is yes. And there's the overview screen up here. So with the data usage, we give you a total of 3 gig, like I said, per site for the PDN. We break that down into PDN, which is the actual always-on connectivity between the different sites, and then the VPN is actually the secure remote access. So even though this even though this is a PDN system, you're still able to, let's say, for example, if you want to connect to the PLC and you want to download a program, you can still do that. There's a question which says, alerts when nearing limits. Yes. So we send out an email when you're at 75% of your data usage, at 100%, and then also at 125% of your data usage. At that point, and typically we don't actually enforce it the first month, but let's say, for example, you've gone over the second month as well, then what we do is we disable tunnel access through to the end of the month. Now with PDN, we don't do that because we realize this is a critical infrastructure. So with those warnings, typically the RSM knows about it, and then you would know we would work with you to ensure that the service continues to go through and the service itself is not interrupted. And remember, again, today for the next 2 months, because of the crisis that we're all in and we're all trying to get through, we've increased the data limit through to 20 gigs per gateway per month when you're using secure remote access, so you're able to support your customers without fear of losing data. Okay, so you're actually just over the limit, so I would like to thank everybody for their time and for attending this webinar. Remember, if you got any questions, please feel free to reach out to your ProSoft RSM or the distributor. And we will share the recording of this webinar, including the slides, sometime over the next day or so. So thank you all again. Stay safe, stay healthy, and talk to you all soon. Bye for now.